The Galactic Sovereign Council had seen many wars, many powerful empires, and many dangerous species rise and fall. Nothing in the galaxy surprised them anymore. Or at least, that was what they believed. The council chamber floated in orbit around a bright blue star. It was a massive circular hall where the most powerful rulers of the galaxy gathered to make decisions that affected thousands of star systems. Tall alien figures sat on glowing thrones. Some were made of crystal-like skin, others had armored scales, and some looked almost like shadows in the dim light. Each one ruled entire civilizations. Peace in the galaxy was fragile, but the council believed they controlled it. Then the alarms began. A sharp red light flashed across the chamber walls. Emergency signals echoed through the hall. Every sovereign turned toward the giant holographic display in the center of the room. A young council officer stepped forward, clearly nervous. An unknown vessel has entered the outer sectors, the officer said. One of the older sovereigns laughed. Another explorer ship? Or some lost trader? A few others chuckled. Strange ships appeared sometimes. It was nothing unusual. But the officer did not laugh. It is not a trader, or an explorer, he replied. The display flickered, and the image of the ship appeared. For a moment, the entire chamber went silent. The ship was enormous. No, enormous was too small a word. It looked like a moving fortress. The vessel stretched across space like a dark mountain made of metal. Massive armor plates covered its surface. Giant structures rose from its body like towers from a city. Even the largest warships in the galaxy looked tiny next to it. One sovereign leaned forward. That must be an entire fleet, he said. The officer slowly shook his head. No, sovereign. The chamber became quiet again. It is only one ship. Shock spread across the room. One ship that size should not exist. No known empire had the resources to build something like that. Another sovereign asked the question everyone was thinking. Who built it? The officer hesitated before answering. The signal identification has been translated. The holographic screen changed again. A line of simple text appeared. Terran Dreadnought. Titan of Earth. Whispers spread through the chamber. Humans. Impossible. Humanity is a minor species. The council quickly searched their archives. Humanity came from a small world called Earth. They had joined the galactic community only a few centuries ago. They were known for trade, science, and diplomacy. They avoided war whenever possible. Most empires considered them peaceful. Weak, even. Yet the massive ship on the screen carried a human signal. One sovereign narrowed his eyes. Scan its weapons. The officer obeyed. Moments later, the results appeared. The chamber grew colder. The ship carried weapons far stronger than anything the council had ever recorded. Planetary cannons. Energy shields larger than cities. Systems that no one could fully understand. Another alarm suddenly rang out. All defensive fleets in Sector 9 have locked weapons on the vessel, the officer reported. The sovereigns nodded. Good. The galaxy would deal with the threat quickly. But seconds later, something strange happened. Every fleet in Sector 9 suddenly lost targeting control. Weapons went offline. Engines stalled. Communication systems flickered. Confusion spread through the council chamber. What is happening? One ruler demanded. The officer stared at his console in disbelief. The Dreadnought has disabled every ship, without firing. The chamber fell completely silent. No one had seen technology like this before. Then the massive human ship moved. Slowly. Calmly. Like a giant that knew nothing in the galaxy could stop it. A transmission signal suddenly spread across every communication channel. The voice that followed was calm. Human. Clear. And completely fearless. We warned the galaxy many times. The council listened carefully. The voice continued. Human colonies were attacked. Human lives were taken. We asked for peace. The voice paused. Then it spoke the words that made every sovereign feel a sudden chill. But now, humanity has come to remind the galaxy of something. The giant ship on the holographic screen powered up its glowing systems. Stars reflected across its massive armor. Then the final message arrived. Earth is not weak. And humanity is done being ignored. The council chamber stayed silent long after the human message ended. No one spoke for several seconds. The massive Terran Dreadnought continued to move slowly through the stars on the holographic display. It did not attack. It did not rush. It simply advanced like a giant that knew nothing could stop it. One of the oldest sovereigns finally broke the silence. Humans were never capable of building something like this. Several rulers nodded in agreement. Humanity had joined the galactic community as a small and peaceful civilization. Their ships were small. Their fleets were limited. Their technology was good, but never extraordinary. At least, that was what everyone believed. The council immediately ordered the archives to open every file about humanity. Thousands of records appeared across the chamber's floating screens. Human trade routes. Human colonies. Human science programs. Peace treaties. Diplomatic missions. Everything looked normal. Too normal. One sharp-minded sovereign leaned forward. Show the reports about the missing colonies. The officer quickly searched. A new set of records appeared. Over the past 2 centuries, several human settlements had disappeared near the outer borders of known space. At the time, the events were considered small incidents. Pirates. Accidents. Unstable star systems. Human diplomats had asked the council for help many times. But the council never acted. The problems seemed minor. Now the room felt colder. A reptilian sovereign spoke slowly. Which empires were closest to those colonies? The system highlighted several powerful civilizations. The Drathari Empire. The Vex Dominion. The Core Alliance. Some ships from those empires had been seen near human space before the colonies vanished. But no proof had ever been found. And humans had never accused anyone. They only asked for investigations. The council never gave them one. Another ruler spoke quietly. Why did humanity never retaliate? No one answered. Then a new signal appeared on the display. It was coming directly from the Terran Dreadnought. The human voice returned. Calm as before. For 200 years, humanity watched its people disappear. Images suddenly appeared across the holographic screen. Destroyed colonies. Burned cities. Empty human settlements floating silently in space. The council members shifted in their seats. Many of them had never seen these images before. The human voice continued. We asked the galaxy for help. We asked for justice. We asked for peace. The voice paused. But no one listened. Another image appeared. A secret human shipyard hidden near a dying red star. Massive construction platforms surrounded something enormous. Even bigger than the Dreadnought now entering the galaxy. The council leaned forward in shock. The human voice spoke again. So humanity made a decision. If the galaxy would not protect us, we would protect ourselves. The image zoomed closer to the giant structure under construction. Thousands of workers moved across its surface. Entire fleets of support ships surrounded it. The scale was unbelievable. That was the beginning of the Terran Dreadnought program, the voice explained. The council officer quickly checked the data. The construction had started almost 100 years earlier. Hidden. Completely secret. No galactic sensor network had detected it. The human voice continued. We built ships designed to stop any fleet. Ships designed to end wars before they begin. Another image appeared. More dreadnoughts. Not one. Not two. But many. Silent giants resting in hidden systems. The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Humanity had not built a single weapon. They had built an entire fleet. The voice finished its message. For centuries the galaxy believed humanity was weak. That belief kept us safe. The Terran Dreadnought on the screen slowly powered up its engines. The glow from its systems lit the surrounding stars. Then the final words echoed across the chamber. But now the galaxy must understand the truth. A new warning signal appeared across every galactic channel. The Drathri Empire had just launched its entire war fleet. Thousands of ships were moving toward the human dreadnought. The Drathri sovereign stood from his throne with pride. Good, he said coldly. We will remind the humans who truly rules this galaxy. But across the stars, the Terran Dreadnought did not change course. It did not retreat. It did not power its weapons. It simply waited. Like a giant that had already seen the future. And knew exactly how the battle would end. The news spread across the galaxy in minutes. The Drathri Empire had launched its entire war fleet. Thousands of ships were now moving toward the Terran Dreadnought. The Galactic Sovereign Council watched the situation through the massive holographic display in the center of their chamber. Every ruler leaned forward, their eyes locked on the approaching battle. The Drathri Empire was not a small power. It was one of the oldest and strongest civilizations in the galaxy. Their fleets had conquered dozens of star systems. Their warships were famous for their heavy weapons and powerful shields. For centuries, no one had dared to challenge them directly. Now they were about to face humanity's mysterious dreadnought. On the screen, Drathri ships began appearing one by one. First came the scouts. Then the destroyers. Then the massive battle cruisers. Soon the space around the Terran ship filled with Drathri warships. Hundreds. Then thousands. They formed a massive ring around the human vessel. Compared to the enormous dreadnought, the warships looked small, but their numbers were overwhelming. One council officer spoke nervously. The Drathri fleet has surrounded the human ship. The Drathri sovereign watched with confidence. No ship can survive that many weapons, he said proudly. Inside the Terran Dreadnought, however, there was no panic. Human officers moved calmly through the command center. The bridge was quiet. A large viewing screen showed the Drathri fleet closing in from every direction. One young officer looked at the display and asked, "Orders." The human commander stood near the center of the bridge. His voice was steady and relaxed. Hold position. No weapons were charged. No defensive shields expanded. The giant ship simply floated in space. Outside, the Drathri fleet prepared to fire. Their weapons glowed as energy built inside massive cannons. Missile launchers opened across hundreds of ships. A Drathri admiral appeared on every communication channel. His voice was cold and full of arrogance. "Human vessel," he said, "you have entered Drathri-controlled territory. You will power down your ship and surrender immediately." The Terran Dreadnought remained silent. No response came. The admiral's expression darkened. "Very well," he said. "Destroy the ship." The command spread instantly across the Drathri fleet. Thousands of weapons fired at the same moment. The darkness of space exploded with light. Energy beams shot forward like blazing rivers of fire. Missiles screamed through space. Explosions covered the Terran Dreadnought in a storm of destruction. Even the council chamber was filled with blinding light from the holographic display. For several seconds, the Dreadnought completely disappeared behind the explosions. The Drathri sovereign smiled. "It is finished." But slowly, the explosions faded. The smoke and glowing debris drifted away. And the Terran Dreadnought was still there. Completely untouched. Not a single mark covered its armor. The Drathari fleet fell silent. Confusion spread through their command ships. "How is that possible?" one officer whispered. The human ship finally moved. Very slowly, it turned toward the center of the Drathari formation. Inside the Dreadnought, the human commander calmly spoke one order. "Activate pulse." Deep inside the massive ship, a strange system powered on. Outside, a soft wave of blue light expanded from the Dreadnought. It moved through space silently. The wave passed over the first Drathari ships. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then suddenly, their engines shut down. Weapons powered off. Shields collapsed. The wave continued spreading. More ships went dark. One by one. Then dozens. Then hundreds. Within seconds, the entire Drathari fleet was frozen in space. Thousands of warships floated helplessly. Their systems completely disabled. Panic spread through the Drathari command network. No power. Engines are dead. Weapons offline. The Drathari admiral stared at his controls in disbelief. Every system on his ship had stopped responding. Across the galaxy, the council chamber sat in stunned silence. The Terran Dreadnought had defeated the largest fleet in the galaxy. Without destroying a single ship. Then the human voice returned across the communication channels. Calm. Controlled. Unshaken. "We did not come here to start a war." The message echoed through every silent Drathari vessel. "But humanity will end any war started against us." The Terran Dreadnought slowly began moving again. Passing peacefully through the helpless fleet. Behind it, thousands of Drathari warships drifted powerless in the darkness. And for the first time in centuries, the galaxy realized something terrifying. Humanity had just proven that their power was beyond anything the galaxy understood. The entire galaxy watched in stunned silence. Thousands of Drathari warships floated helplessly in space, their systems dead, their weapons useless. The Terran Dreadnought moved slowly through the middle of the frozen fleet like a silent giant passing through a field of statues. Inside the Galactic Sovereign Council chamber, no one spoke. For centuries, the Drathari Empire had been feared across the stars. Their fleets had crushed rebellions, destroyed rivals, and expanded their territory without mercy. Yet now their greatest armada had been stopped in seconds. And not a single human weapon had been fired. The Drathari sovereign stood from his throne, his scales trembling with anger. "This is impossible," he hissed. "No civilization should have this level of power." Across the chamber, the council officer suddenly raised his head. "Another transmission is coming from the human vessel." Every sovereign turned toward the holographic display. The image changed. This time, it was not a ship or a battlefield. Instead, a human appeared on the screen. He wore a simple dark uniform. No armor. No decorations. His expression was calm, almost tired. He stood alone in what looked like a quiet command room. The human spoke clearly. "My name is Admiral Elias Ward of the Terran Defense Command." The chamber remained silent as the message continued. For 200 years, humanity tried to be part of the galactic community. Images appeared beside him. Human diplomats shaking hands with alien leaders. Trade ships traveling peacefully between star systems. Scientific teams working with other species. "We shared our technology," the admiral said. "We traded our resources. We helped solve problems across the galaxy." The images suddenly changed. Now they showed something darker. Human colonies burning. Evacuation ships fleeing destroyed settlements. Families standing beside ruined homes. But during those same centuries, the admiral continued quietly, "Our people were attacked. The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The images showed the truth clearly. Human colonies had not disappeared by accident. Many had been destroyed by advanced weapons. Others had been secretly captured. In some images, alien warships could even be seen in orbit. The admiral's voice remained calm. We reported these crimes to the council many times. We asked for investigations. We asked for justice. He paused. But the galaxy was too busy fighting its own wars. The chamber grew colder. No one could deny it. Human requests for help had been ignored again and again. The admiral continued speaking. So humanity made a difficult choice. Another image appeared. Hidden shipyards deep inside remote star systems. Massive construction platforms orbiting dying stars. Gigantic warships slowly taking shape. We decided that if the galaxy could not protect our people, we would protect them ourselves. The Terran Dreadnought program had begun in total secrecy. Human engineers worked for decades building ships unlike anything ever seen. Ships designed not for conquest, but for control. Weapons that could stop fleets. Systems that could disable entire armies without killing anyone. Admiral Ward looked directly into the camera. The Terran Dreadnought you see today is only the first. A new image appeared behind him. The council chamber erupted with whispers. Dozens of enormous human warships floated silently in hidden star systems. Each one the size of a small moon. Each one carrying the same terrifying technology. We built these ships so no one could threaten humanity again, the admiral explained. We built them so our people would never face extinction. Then he leaned slightly closer to the camera. But hear this clearly. Humanity does not want to rule the galaxy. We do not want your planets. We do not want your empires. The Drathari fleet still floated helplessly behind the Dreadnought as the admiral finished his message. We only want something very simple. His voice became firm. Leave humanity in peace. The holographic transmission ended. For a long moment, the council chamber remained completely silent. Every sovereign stared at the image of the Terran Dreadnought drifting through the powerless Drathari fleet. For the first time in galactic history, the rulers of the stars understood something they had never considered before. Humanity had not built these ships to start a war. They had built them to make sure no one else ever could. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy was quiet. The Terran Dreadnought slowly left the Drathari fleet behind. Thousands of warships still floated powerless in the darkness, unable to move, unable to fire, unable to chase the human ship that had defeated them without a single shot. Across hundreds of star systems, civilizations watched the same live broadcast. Every empire had seen the battle. Every ruler had heard the message. And now every government in the galaxy was asking the same question. What happens next? Inside the Galactic Sovereign Council chamber, the silence finally broke. The Drathari sovereign slammed his claw against his throne. This is humiliation, he roared. Our fleet was disabled like children's toys. Some rulers looked angry. Others looked frightened. But many simply looked thoughtful. One older sovereign spoke quietly. The humans could have destroyed the entire Drathari fleet. The chamber became silent again. Everyone knew that was true. The Terran Dreadnought had shown more than enough power to wipe the fleet out completely. But it had not fired. Not once. Another ruler leaned forward. Why would they show mercy? Before anyone could answer, a council officer interrupted. Multiple signals incoming from Terran space. The holographic display lit up again. Instead of a warship, the screen now showed something unexpected. Human diplomats. Messages were arriving from Earth. Peace offers. Trade agreements. Security treaties. The messages were simple and direct. Humanity was not declaring war. Humanity was offering cooperation. The Drathari sovereign stared at the screen with disbelief. They defeat our fleet, he growled, and then they offer friendship. Another council member slowly nodded. That may be exactly the point. Meanwhile, far from the council chamber, the Terran Dreadnought continued its journey. Inside the massive ship, Admiral Elias Ward stood on the bridge looking out at the silent stars. A young officer approached him. "Sir," she said, "Drathari ships are slowly regaining power." The admiral nodded. "Good." The officer looked surprised. "We're letting them go." Ward gave a small smile. "If we destroyed their fleet, the galaxy would only see us as conquerors." He turned back toward the stars. "But if we show restraint, they will see something else." Back in the council chamber, more signals began arriving. The Vex Dominion requested diplomatic talks with Earth. The Core Alliance proposed a technology exchange. Several smaller civilizations even asked for protection agreements with humanity. The galaxy was changing faster than anyone expected. One council member finally spoke the thought that had been growing in everyone's mind. "For centuries we believed humans were weak." Another ruler slowly replied. "Perhaps they allowed us to believe that." The holographic display showed the Terran Dreadnought one last time as it moved toward deep space. The giant ship looked less like a weapon now. More like a guardian watching over the stars. The council officer spoke softly. "New reports confirm multiple human dreadnoughts have been detected leaving hidden systems." Gasps spread across the chamber. Not one ship. Not two. Many. The humans had built an entire fleet of giants. Yet none of them were attacking. None were invading planets. They were simply spreading across space, silently watching. One ancient sovereign leaned back in his throne and sighed. "The balance of power in the galaxy has just changed forever." Another ruler nodded slowly. "Yes. But not because humans seek control." He looked toward the image of the Terran Dreadnought disappearing into the darkness. "Because now, everyone understands what happens if humanity is threatened." Across the galaxy, the message was clear. Humanity did not want to rule. Humanity did not want war. But they had built something powerful enough to stop any empire that tried. And from that day forward, every sovereign, every admiral, and every ruler in the galaxy remembered a new truth. Never mistake kindness for weakness. Because sometimes the most peaceful civilization is also the one capable of ending every war.